So hello everyone. Welcome to this webinar titled Introduction to Deaf Community and Malaysian Sign Language, abbreviated as BIM. It is not solely in sign language. We have voicing as well. We have two interpreters with us tonight, Wei Chun and Lucy. Both of them will interpret and voice in English. So now a little bit about housekeeping rules again. Kindly switch off your microphones. You can decide whether you want to leave your video camera on or off. That's your decision. And during the webinar, if you realize you have a question, you can type them and send them in the chat box below, and I'll be happy to address them. There will be a session of Q&A. So if you'd like to ask a question, kindly press or use the raise hand feature, and I will address your question. Many of you may not know who I am. My name is Anthony, and that's my sign name. I'm born, raised, deaf person, but my family is hearing. I can read and write, and I understand both Malay and English. But my whole family speaks Mandarin, which I don't know. I would like to learn Mandarin, but my mom says no. So having different languages, it may be difficult to accept learning them. And for sign languages, I know two, Malaysian Sign Language and American Sign Language. How do I know American Sign Language? It's because I've stayed 2 years in America. And I have 2 master's degrees. I have one from University of Malaya in linguistics. And my second master's is in Deaf Studies in Gallaudet University, United States of America. So in America, so Gallaudet University is the only university for deaf persons in the world. And for PhD, I did sociology also in Malaysia, University of Malaya. And I'm actively involved and play multiple roles, wear multiple hats as an advocate, an activist, an educator, facilitator, trainer, researcher, BIM translator, and project manager, all at the same time. And I'm also a co-founder of 3 organizations. The first one is MyBIM, Malaysian Sign Language and Deaf Studies National Organization. Second one is DAWN, Deaf Advocacy and Wellbeing National Organization, Malaysia. And the third one is MADIO, Malaysian Deaf Diversity Organization. That's right. So MyBIM focuses on Malaysian Sign Language and Deaf Studies and its development here in Malaysia. Second one, DAWN, it focuses on deaf rights and the uplifting of the community. And for MADIO, is promotion of diversity and inclusivity within the community itself. Now I'm also serving in the Bar Council Committee on Persons with Disabilities and hope to contribute in national level policy discussions. So that's all about me. No, it isn't. I have a lot more in my background that's a lot that it's more to share than today. You can find me on Google and you can find a lot more information about me. And for now, what's the objective of today's webinar? Is to understand more about deaf lives and identities, to understand about BIM and why it is important, and to understand ways in which that you can support deaf community. So this webinar help you to understand fully about the deaf community here in Malaysia? No, it's just a taste. It's just a taste so that you can learn more about the community, but not fully in depth. So the deaf community, so many people think that the deaf community or deaf persons are people who are disabled. Let me explain further. Long time ago, I found out that being deaf means hearing impairment, somebody who cannot hear, and that's a disability. And that person is not able to help oneself, and the person is naive, doesn't know anything or what to do, and requires help to improve one's life. And it's always charity case, a charity case. So it's about donation, just caring, and that's it. And some family, when they are gifted with deaf babies, deaf children, they're ashamed about them. And they keep them isolated at home. So anytime when the family goes out of the house for any outing, they will follow the child very closely and do not allow the child to sign. There are some families who actually accept deaf children, but could be overprotective. And later, many years on, when deaf children grew up and finally learn more about themselves and their deaf identity, they become more independent. And this community itself is a linguistic minority community where they use sign language to communicate one another. So it is their pride. And because they take pride in it, they use the sign language to communicate with one another. But something's amiss. Families and societies around, they don't believe that deaf persons can be independent, can stand on their own 2 feet. They're always very dependent on help. And this is because of the long-standing understanding or perspective of paternalism, that they cannot do anything on their own. So deaf persons remain dormant. They are not given the space to progress, to develop, and also it lacks advocacy. So they always blame themselves, and they believe that hearing people are right, and they end up being negative. And they're always being led by the nose, and therefore they cannot be independent. So families and societies alike, because they practice paternalism, deaf children just follow. It happened before when a deaf person there's an instance before where a deaf person giving advice to another deaf person. The deaf person don't believe that the deaf person's advice is correct. Instead, they trusted the hearing person's advice even more. So how do we change their mindset? They're already traumatized and it's etched deeply into their mind. It's difficult to change. So what are the problems that they face? So there are delays in language acquisition. So when hearing parents without the experience of having deaf children, once they are gifted with deaf children, they will tend to abandon them. And the deaf children are left helpless because they cannot hear. And as for me, my mom, when she found that I'm deaf, I think at the age of 3, my mom didn't know what to do. She don't know how to sign, but she put in effort. She bought a lot of books with pictures in it, and she gave them to me. And she taught me to learn to read the books. And those books were in the Malay language. So Malay language is actually my first language. But many deaf persons, they miss this opportunity and exposure to language. They never had that opportunity. And therefore, language acquisition for them is delayed. So maybe they receive exposure at the age of 7 or 8, which is already late. And because of that delay, it affects their mental development. It also becomes a delay, and therefore they cannot interact, they cannot socialize, and they aren't able to understand emotionally how to convey them. So everything's a delay. And normally for hearing people, maybe at the age of 17 or 18, they're already mature and they can think for themselves. But for deaf persons, they only tend to become mature at the age of 30. So because of this language delay and the mental development delay, it makes education for them much more difficult. And what's even worse, they cannot express themselves well. Let me give you an example here in Malaysia. When you meet a deaf child, maybe at the age of 12, a 12-year-old deaf child, you ask a deaf child, a simple question, how do you feel when you go to school? Unfortunately, the child won't be able to answer you, they just nod their head, won't be able to express himself or herself, couldn't understand the question. But remember before, when I went to Japan, I met a deaf child only at the age of 8. And I asked the child many questions. The child could answer me beautifully and can express him or herself very well. And I was shocked, surprised, and amazed at the same time of the two different cultures. And I'm stuck in between. So BIM, Malaysian Sign Language, what does it mean? BIM itself has its own grammar, but many people, especially hearing people, deaf people alike, they think that deaf, when they sign, it's broken. It's a broken form of a language. No, it's not. It's not the case. Bahasa Isyarat Malaysia, BIM, or Malaysian Sign Language is independent as a language. But no, they may not be able to accept that. But I will explain further. BIM is important for deaf people. Why is that? Because it provides accessibility to information. And with BIM, it is pride of the community. They can use it to communicate. And BIM is equal to a spoken language by a hearing person. So for a hearing person who takes pride in Malay or English, that person also will take pride in sign language because they are equals. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Many people think sign language is useless, or in Malay, tak guna. Many hearing people think that BIM is more of gesturing, miming, that's all. And it's not a true language. No, it's not. That's not the case. Now I'd like to explain about interpreters. Last time, a long time ago, when deaf community was still small and sign is in infancy, there were several interpreters came and teach, and when they started to communicate, it helps them to communicate better. So the hearing interpreters will be the bridge between a hearing person and a deaf person. And as time progresses, deaf person stand independent when sign language is being recognized as a language. And the profession itself became, interpreters became professional. However, many hearing people until now still think that interpreters are just helpers. Let me give you an example. Say, for example, a police report. When making a police report, a deaf person goes to the police station to make a report. The police officer will ask, please bring your friend, can sign, or an interpreter. So that's not being professional. Instead, the police officer should call for an interpreter to process the report for the deaf person. And sometimes for some hearing people, they will think that interpreters are carers. Let me give you an example. For example, a hearing person, if they need to tell something to a deaf person, he will tell the interpreter, please tell the deaf person so and so. So the interpreter becomes the center person or the middle person. That should not be. Another example would be when I want to communicate with government officials or company or other companies, I will send them email or WhatsApp. And they will reply to me that they would prefer conversation, spoken language. And they will call me, they will ring my phone. But what can I do? I can only see the phone ringing. I'm a deaf person. I've already told them, but they still call the number. So I need to find for my mother, my father, or my friends to help me answer that phone call. It means that they don't provide me with accessibility. And they think that I need help. No, I'm independent. But many hearing people still don't get that. So that's what happened. And now we are focused on BIM and the many misconceptions of it. Now, for example, you understand Malay, right? And you also understand English, is that correct? So how do you communicate? You need to talk, verbalize, right? And the other person would listen. You can write and you can read. That's right. And that's how you communicate in Malay and English. But for a deaf person, we can't hear, we can't speak. So hearing person thinks that because we cannot hear, we cannot speak, and therefore we use our hands. Therefore, many hearing people think a deaf person, when they sign, is in Malay, or they're signing in English, or signing in Mandarin. Last time, it happened once in a meeting. When I was signing in BIM, only in BIM. The interpreter voiced for me. She did it in English. And another interpreter voiced in Malay. So for all the hearing person in attendance, thought that I was signing in Malay or signing in English. No, that's not the case. I'm only signing in BIM, and it's one language. It's one language on its own. But the hearing persons don't understand. They struggle to understand. So it means that in Malaysia, the recognition of BIM is still not there. So in ACTA 2008, ACTA OKU 2008 or the OKU Act 2008, it says that deaf persons communicate using Malaysian Sign Language. So it means that BIM has yet to be recognized. So people think BIM is only one tool to replace the Malay language. And BIM is actually important for the deaf community because we use to communicate one another in this language. It is how we convey our thoughts, our emotions, and it is better for us to sign than read. It's akin to reading and writing. But reading and writing in English and Malay could be a struggle for a deaf person. You can ask a deaf person, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the poorest and 10 being the best, you ask a deaf person, the deaf person could understand Bahasa Melayu or the Malay language at a scale of 9. Oh, wow, your language is really good. Okay. So that deaf person was given a transcript, but upon reading it, couldn't understand. So what you mean? Maybe you think that you know the words, and therefore you rank yourself number 9. But no, that's not the case. In many ideas by the government and companies, when being recruited in the government and companies for work and being asked to rank the language in Malay, they were given 9, but actually, no, that's not. So all of you will learn BIM. When you learn BIM, learn it in BIM. When you learn English in school, the teacher will teach English and later translate to English, Malay, and then back to English, going back and forth. No, the teacher doesn't do that. The teacher only focuses on English. So when the teacher teaches in English, the teacher doesn't use Malay or Mandarin. And this is the same idea when learning BIM. When you learn BIM, total communication will be in BIM. Total education experience will be in BIM, not in Malay. Because when you learn in BIM, when you see the word in English, you will think that when you sign, you actually follow English word, or you follow the Malay language. That's a misunderstanding. So never translate when learning BIM. So when you learn BIM, you must immerse yourself, play with BIM, sign around, enjoy that experience, and find their friends, talk with them, chat with them, have conversation with them with sign. And over a long period of time, that's how you acquire language. And if you like to learn English, you like to improve English, to be proficient in it, you need to find a friend who can speak very well in English. And you follow the friend around, you can learn from the friend, and that's how you improve your proficiency in that language. And that's the same idea as BIM. When you read more in English, or when you watch TV in English, you listen to audio in English, that's how you improve in English. But what about BIM? There's no book, there's no TV, there's no audio, only what? What's the only way? Deaf person, through a deaf person, and that's it. Well, be patient. So when you want to communicate in BIM, you need to think in BIM. Don't think in English, don't think in Malay, no, don't do that. It's because when you think in English, when you sign, it's going to be very tough. When I meet a person who thinks in English or Malay, the person will think out the sentence and will sign, but it will be difficult to progress for that person. So now when you meet a deaf person, just a deaf person. See the deaf person sign very fluently, very proficiently, and that person can communicate very easily. And it's equal to all, but is it equal to all deaf persons? No, it's not. It's because for a deaf person, already know that hearing person cannot sign. And when they sign, it's very awkward. It's only for the hearing person to understand. And that's true. When I talk with a hearing person, I have to adjust the way that I sign to match the level of the hearing person. And I smile and say that's okay. But when I talk with a deaf person, I speak it very naturally. I sign very naturally. But the hearing person couldn't catch what I say, couldn't follow. The person will think, oh, what has happened? If you like to support the deaf community, it's very good. It's a very good endeavor. Deaf community will always welcome it. Because it's difficult for the deaf community to stand on its own feet. It's difficult. It's because everyone, all hearing persons around, don't think highly of deaf persons or the deaf community. They always ignore them, neglect them, put them aside. Normally, those who support us are hearing interpreters. They partner us and they help us. So how can all of you hearing persons assist us? Don't look down on us in terms of thinking that you are more superior in knowledge as compared to us, that I am right and you are wrong. Please don't do that. We can engage in discussion and make decisions together. So if you like to communicate directly to a deaf person. Don't use an interpreter as a middle person. Please tell a deaf person so and so. Please don't do that. And many hearing people always inform the interpreter, hey, interpreter, can you tell him, which is the deaf person, so the interpreter should actually redirect the hearing person to the deaf person, saying that you, instead of tell him. And there is a need, an urgent need to recognize BIM as an official language. Some hearing people still believe that BIM is the Malay language. Let me give you an example. I've been asked, hey, Dr. Anthony, if I want to learn Malay, can I be proficient in BIM in the future? No. BIM and Malay are two distinct languages. If you don't know Malay, if you don't know English, if you don't know Mandarin, that's fine. You still can learn BIM. It's because BIM in itself is a language, and it's a different language, a distinct language. So now you can help to spread this awareness to deaf children and expose them at an early age. Because remember, the last time for deaf children, they can't communicate in sign, and therefore there's a language acquisition delay and a mental development delay. So all of us are responsible to promote, to spread awareness about BIM, and also to recognize it as a language. With BIM, children can develop mentally better and acquire language better. So advocacy in inclusive policies, regardless whether it's education, healthcare, or work, they are truly important. Some companies don't want to accept deaf employees because they look down on deaf persons and their abilities. It could be one of the reasons. In terms of healthcare, many deaf persons don't really understand what they are sick of. For example, previously there's one case. It's a husband and wife, both of them are deaf. The wife is pregnant. And after giving birth, the wife died. So I asked the husband, what happened? What caused the death of your wife? The husband answered, don't know. Only family knows. I was surprised. It means that there's no accessibility in his case. And with reference to education, schools, universities, colleges, they don't accept deaf students. I know of a few. For example, a deaf person wants to become a lawyer, want to study to become a lawyer or a doctor. The university will say, huh, you, a deaf person, want to study law, study medicine? You cannot. You just can't. So now you know that I have PhD, right? And is my PhD useless? And when I go to university for lectures, all the students are hearing. And I become the lecturer, which means that I need to have an interpreter. But the university doesn't want to pay the interpreter. So what do? I'm stuck without choice. So in Malaysia, there's a lack of opportunity for employment for deaf persons. And now, a change in mindset. Discard the stubborn ways and old ideas and change them. It's because a deaf person, in the past and in the present, they are different. In the past, there are a lot of deaf persons who seek help, always seek help. And often we term them as charity. But for now, deaf persons, do you think they need charity? No longer. They don't need them. They don't need charity. However, the society still thinks the deaf person still needs charity. And they still give us money, donation, sympathy, pity, treat us like kids. No, deaf persons as a whole has already advanced. They can work, they can write, they can read, they can understand. But they need accessibility. And it is very important. Accessibility is not charity, don't be mistaken. Our language is BIM. For now, in Malaysia, there is no law recognizing BIM as the official language, which means that the deaf community cannot develop, cannot progress, and cannot conduct research in the language, and cannot get full-time interpreter. A lot of no's, a lot of obstacles and barriers, which means that for a deaf person's life, without accessibility, it's really low, it's really small. Let me give you an example. Many companies, organizations understand that deaf persons need accessibility to information. So they'll call all the deaf persons and they'll conduct a workshop. So for the deaf audience would ask, or the deaf participants would ask, do you have interpreters? The company would apologize and say, no, we don't have the money to hire an interpreter. So maybe you can hire your own interpreter instead. But it's not affordable for them. For an interpreter, and for an interpreter to always give free service, no, it's not sustainable. And that's the reason why it is important for the deaf community to deaf communities BIM to be recognized so that accessibility can be provided. It is a form of respect to the deaf person and also to treat them as equals. So a change is must. So a deaf person is not broken. A deaf person is not handicapped. Deaf person is being viewed as handicapped because a deaf person is being viewed as handicapped, as a broken person. So a lot of things are being provided. So I think now I'll stop. Maybe we open the floor to Q&A.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to Dr. Anthony and MyBIM for giving us this opportunity to share about our upcoming conference called First WASLI Asia 2025. So my name is Kalista Tay, and I'm a freelance BIM interpreter. I am the co-chair of the First WASLI Asia 2025 conference alongside Miss Lucy Lim, which you can see is interpreting right now. So WASLI stands for World Association of Sign Language Interpreters, and this association aims to advance the profession of sign language interpreters worldwide. They usually organize their main conference for interpreters worldwide every 4 years in different parts of the world. The last conference was held in Jeju, Korea 2023, and their upcoming conference will be in UAE in 2027. So in between these major conferences every 4 years, they actually have their different regions conferences, like in Europe, Australasia, in Oceania, North America, Latin America. So they will have their own regional meetings. So that is why the first WASLI Asia 2025 will be a historical one, because this will be the first time that Asia will be organizing our own conference here, and it is right here in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So we in BIM are the proud hosts of this conference alongside with the WASLI Asia regional representatives. Our theme for the conference will be building bridges, strengthening partnerships within Asia. And this will be a platform to collaborate and learn from each other to elevate the interpreting standards in Asia, as well as to network with interpreters from the region. We welcome all interpreters, aspiring interpreters, or any one of you who are curious about the interpreting profession or how could you contribute more to the deaf community. It also doesn't matter whether you are hearing or deaf. We welcome you to this conference. This conference will be inclusive as it will be conducted in 3 languages simultaneously: spoken English, BIM, and also international sign. So the conference will be held in CityTel Mid Valley from the 31st of July till 3rd of August. And here is the overview of the topics that will be covered during the conference. Okay, so we have the plenaries and keynote sessions, which will touch on topics related to mentorship and how do we embrace our cultural diversity and intersectionality. As we all know, Asia is a very unique part of the world where we are all multicultural and multilingual. So we'll explore the uniqueness and challenges that Asian interpreters face in comparison to interpreters in other regions. We have also concurrent workshops catered for hearing and deaf interpreters and audiences. For hearing interpreters and audience, we have voicing workshop to learn how to be the voice for the deaf when they are signing. Also, how do we navigate this diverse environment? How do we, pivot as interpreters? As you can see, the ones highlighted in green, those are catered for deaf interpreters and audience. So if you're wondering, how does a deaf person become an interpreter? What do they need to become a deaf interpreter and how do they do it? This will be the perfect platform for you to see the works of it. We also have a crossfire session that will compare the ethical views between the older and the younger generation of interpreters. As you know, the world is evolving with technology and also how do we compare the views? And lastly, we have a panel discussion that will discuss on the business perspective as an interpreter. So this was our conference registration fees, and it will be open up till the 25th of July. We have the full conference fees, which includes the 3 full days conference, a KL City tour, and a conference dinner. If you think that, you can't commit to 3 days, you just want to just pop in and you're curious to see what's all about, there's also a 1-day pass option where you can come in for the day and participate in this session. If you are a member of BIM, you are already considered as a WASLI national member and you are entitled to the member fee. As of now, we already have more than 100 people that registered, and majority are international participants. They're from Indonesia, Korea, Singapore, China, Australia, Hong Kong, India, even Germany and UK participants are coming. And if you think that, I can't really sign well, or I don't, do I really need to be an interpreter to join this conference? No, you don't need to. So just to share my experience, last time my first conference experience was actually the WASLI in Jeju. And at that time, I was quite a fresh interpreter and I couldn't really sign well. So I was really nervous, like, can I actually communicate or could I follow the conference sessions? So because there was spoken English, so when I couldn't really understand what the international sign or the Korean sign language was going on, I could actually hear and follow through the session. And don't forget, other people that attend the conference could also be like you. They're also just curious and wanting to learn more about the deaf community and interpreters. So I strongly encourage you to participate in this conference because it is right here in Kuala Lumpur. WASLI conferences are usually in other parts of the world, and it is very costly because you'll pay the registration fees in USD or in euros on top of your other expenses. And right now it's just at your backyard in Kuala Lumpur. So I would really strongly encourage you to join. You'll really open up your eyes and mind to this whole new world and witness how everyone from different parts of the world, especially in Asia, all coming together and all communicating in one common language, which is sign language. So if you want more detailed information, you can visit our conference website. Yeah. Okay. So our conference website is wasli-asia2025.com. You can email us or even follow our Facebook and Instagram. If you would also like to become a Jubi member, you can reach out to me. And yeah, so that's all I like to share. Thank you to Dr. Anthony and MyBIM for giving us this opportunity to share.
Can everyone see me? All right, thank you. Thank you for inviting me, MyBIM and Dr. Anthony Chong. And today I want to share with you our first ever Malaysia Deaf Summit. And it's organized by DAWN, Deaf Advocacy and Wellbeing National Organization, in short for DAWN, and it will be held in Cebu, Sarawak. The hotel that's hosting this event, the Malaysian Deaf Summit, the host is from the Sarawak Deaf Community Services Association. And the theme of this event is Inclusive Futures, Advancing Access and Equity for Deaf Communities. And it's a platform for national collaboration and having everybody to attend, especially those from Malaysia. The dates are on the 26th till the 28th of August. On the 26th is our registration, and later part in the afternoon, in addition to the summit, the event, we also have the International Deaf Day celebration with gala dinner. And some of the summit highlights is on empowerment and to encourage deaf participation of deaf people and others. It's on advocacy, on partnerships and collaboration. And I think there are some highlights here, which is on inclusive education, healthcare access, legal advocacy, accessibility, and cultural preservation. This is also a time for networking opportunities where we connect with researchers, advocates, educators, and deaf individuals. And the main highlight here is that we celebrate the International Deaf Day with a dinner honoring deaf culture and achievements. Yeah, so it is why must you attend? To gain insights and to network with the deaf community. We have deaf experts, deaf leaders who will also be contributing to this summit. And these are all experienced deaf individuals. Here you will see 4 very distinguished speakers, deaf speakers. The first one we have from Vietnam. And then we also have from Indonesia, from Thailand, and even from Philippines. They will talk about education, about accessibility, about legal recognition, and also the well-being. And if you want to know more, there are QR code here that you see on the screen and that you can register. And if you want to send in a paper to be paper presenters, please scan. But if you don't want to attend the 3-day summit, you can also attend just the IDD dinner celebration. And here there's also the website for you to and the email. Thank you very, very much, everyone. And if you have any questions,
Thank you, Calista, Albert, for sharing about the conferences. So now I'd like to inform all of you for this webinar. Is this the end of it? Nope. We have a series lined up with different topics about culture, language, accessibility, health. There's a whole range of it in preparation. So if there's any idea that you'd like to know more about the community, you can feel free to contact me through WhatsApp. You can see my number on the screen. Please don't call me. Please, okay? WhatsApp me. Send me a text. And now, whoever is in attendance, you'll be able to get a cert. If you are working with the government and you require a cert, you can scan a QR. And after this webinar, when it closes, we will give you a form to fill, and after responding, we will give you the cert. It's a short 1-minute form. So now, up to now, I have only 17 respondents who wants the cert. If you need the cert, kindly scan the QR. For those in attendance, we will provide the cert. Of course, for teachers or government staff, they require the certification for their work. So it's not a problem to give you a cert. MyBIM advocates for lifelong learning, supports lifelong learning in BIM, and to pass it down intergenerationally. And that is important for the deaf community because it represents their identity. If you meet a person and you see that the person is hearing, the person will speak. And you realize that if the person doesn't respond and only sign, you will know that the person identifies as a deaf person. So in Malaysia, we have a system to collect all the signs. Do we? No, we don't have. But in future, if deaf persons reduces in number, becoming even a more minority group, BIM will cease to exist, will no longer exist. And there's a loss to the heritage. It will be lost in history. So in America, they are rich in history in ASL, There's a lot of research being done, but in Malaysia, there's next to none. Even if there is so little, so it's a miss. That's the reason why MyBIM is being established. It's because with research, they can preserve the identity and history and culture. So come, support us. So if you'd like to communicate with us or keep in touch with us, you can check our website. If you feel that you don't really have time to help, yes, you can donate money. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your time. So for the week's webinar, when we have fully planned it, we will let you know. So do follow our website, or MyBIM website. And you can join our WhatsApp group, where we provide more information and updates. Okay. Any questions? None? Okay, so thank you very much. And I'll see you again. Bye.